Do you use skincare? Do you like celebrities? Why not try celebrity skincare? No, not celebrity brands, but the stuff that they totally actually use. Proactiv. All the biggest modern stars use it, like Justin Bieber, Avril Lavigne, even Jessica Simpson. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can it be that these famous people all use the same skincare? What makes Proactiv so great? And hey, aren't most of these celebrities kind of past their point of relevancy? What is it, 2010? Well, those are all great questions, and believe it or not, once upon a time, it was 2010. And if you had cable, or even just existed at any point during the 2000s and 2010s, this specific shade of turquoise and all of its related celebrity endorsements are probably burned into your memory. If you didn't directly experience Proactiv in its prime, then those few things are still really all you need to know about it. The turquoise, the endorsements, and the so much money funneled into marketing the trendiest acne treatment out there. It might seem weird to make a retrospective on an acne treatment, but this stuff was advertised in such a way that it made it kind of cool, or at least made it look cool. But now, in 2025, I can't remember seeing anything about it since it was all over TV years ago, and I'm wondering what happened to Proactiv, and did it even really work? Using tons of celebrities and making claims like America's #1 acne system doesn't automatically make it a worthwhile product. And if it did work as advertised, why don't you hear much about it anymore? Even though I mostly associate Proactiv commercials with the 2010s, it was actually first formulated all the way back in the 80s. In 1987, two dermatologists, Katie Roden and Kathy Fields, noticed that within their first years of dermatology practice, they saw a lot of not just acne, but acne on adults. Adults who would avoid discussing it or even deny that it was a problem. Roden and Fields' goal was to treat the acne, raise awareness about what causes it in the first place, and normalize acne products marketed towards adults instead of just teenagers. After a few years of trials, focus groups, and perfecting the formula, Proactiv was ready to pitch in 1993. But when pitching to Neutrogena, Roden and Fields were rejected and told to make an infomercial instead. While they initially took it as an insult, since infomercials aren't always known to house the most reliable or successful products, it eventually became one of the main driving forces behind their success. The first Proactiv infomercial aired in 1995, and the launch went great, seeing a lot of initial success just by nature of an untapped market. The infomercial format also helped to explain more in depth what Proactiv was, and provided confidentiality for adults to buy over the phone where they might otherwise feel embarrassed to buy acne treatments in person. But an extra secret ingredient also helped push Proactiv's appeal, and we're not talking secret formulas here. That ingredient was the power of fame, namely Judith Light, who featured as the first Proactiv spokesperson in 1995. Depending on your age or knowledge of 20th century actors, that name may not really mean anything to you, like it doesn't ring any bells for me. Sorry to Judith. But in 1995, Judith Light, a TV and film actress, was relevant enough to have some sway over Proactiv's target demographic, especially because, according to the ads, she wasn't just promoting it, but actually claimed to use it.
I had acne. It was treated by a dermatologist, but later it reappeared. Fortunately, I found Proactiv and my breakouts disappeared. And now I use Proactiv as my skincare solution to keep my skin clear and healthy.
Because the length of the commercials could range from 30 seconds to 30 minutes, the method and pace of the advertising could vary, but generally, these early Proactiv ads were still especially geared towards a young adult to middle-age range of women. Testimonials showed a typical before and after picture, but also heart-to-heart style interviews with Judith about each customer's new lease on life, complete with soft, heartfelt music playing in the background, which is so classic 90s.
What do you want to tell people about Proactiv?
To try it.
I feel like I'm watching an episode of Full House. Not to say that this was out of place or wasn't a worthwhile mode of advertising, but it's definitely setting a more mature and emotional tone. This style of infomercial continued running into the 2000s, and a few other notable names were featured over the years, but as the target demographic was still mainly adult women, they weren't necessarily huge stars with a lot of pull. They were celebrities that would likely be recognizable to most potential customers, so that the draw was less, I love this celebrity and they're so famous and I must use the same skincare as them, and more, this person is moderately famous, but also similar to me in age and skin condition, so maybe this'll work for me too. But then, circa 2003, a new celebrity hopped on the endorsement train, Jessica Simpson. In 2003, Jessica had seen success in her music career, but was also the star of her own brand new reality TV show that debuted on MTV that same year, which is all to say she was relevant in this millennium, relating to young person interests. No shade to the other Proactiv spokeswoman, but Jessica wasn't just relevant in then current pop culture, but as she was in her early 20s, she was also one of the youngest touted Proactiv users so far. This was the next step to reaching a new, modern demographic. From this point forward, that target audience began to shift from middle-aged to middle schoolers. Okay, actually, it was more like a high school to older age range, but I liked the way that segue sounded and wanted to use it anyway. It's hard to say for sure if Jessica Simpson's involvement had a direct impact on Proactiv sales with younger users, or if it had just seen enough success that it was ready to intentionally branch out into new markets. Whatever the correlation, though, into the mid to late 2000s, there was a clear change in the brand's advertising. The infomercials were no longer all soft and emotional, but were fast and urgent. We're talking classic infomercial style, with the choppy jump cuts and the special TV offer and the just pay shipping and handling and the buy now. They still featured before and after pics and testimonials, but it wasn't meant to be touching anymore so much as it was meant to be enticing, pique your interest, and maybe even confuse and or overwhelm you a little bit so that you reached for the phone without really knowing why you were compelled to do so. Though they were hard selling, there was also still an emphasis on the knowledge of acne, how and why it forms, how normal and common it is, to not just shove a product at you, but to explain how it works, therefore justifying the price of a $40 monthly subscription. The customer testimonials also included a lot more young adults and teenagers than women in their 30s and 40s, and new celebrity features were also younger in age themselves and geared towards a younger audience. Supermodels, musicians, and actors alike were all chiming in to say, hey, I use Proactiv, and you should too. Alicia Keys, Jenna Fisher, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Lindsay Lohan, Serena Williams, Kelly Clarkson, Katy Perry, and more. If you aren't familiar with any of these people, you might be just a bit outside of my target age range for this video, but trust me when I say that these were among the most relevant and or recognizable stars of the mid to late 2000s. So snagging them for a partnership meant that Proactiv must be seeing a good amount of success. There were also even a few male celebrities featured, most notably Justin Bieber, whose years-long partnership even outlasted his flippy haircut. The inclusion of both men and women is a good example of how Proactiv wasn't marketed as a beauty-oriented product for women, but a self-care product that's gender neutral. And this is the era of Proactiv branding that I remember most. Even just calling it an era really says a lot about how prominent this stuff was. It's not an artist with an album cycle, it's just an acne product. But it was everywhere, on TV and eventually in person, impossible to miss, and it had famous people. While there were plenty of regular people, or maybe just actors paid to look like regular people, who can say for sure, featured in the commercials, the celebrities were arguably the most eye-catching and memorable part of the advertising. In the 90s ads, Judith Light did make claims that she used the product and saw positive results, but the 2000s ads featured more of a dedicated segment of each star, often essentially hosting their own version of each commercial. They didn't just loosely claim that they liked Proactiv, but they'd talk about their history with skin problems, how frustrating it is to have skin problems while being famous, how they tried everything, and how they saw results only with Proactiv. I mean, they did still completely sound like they were just reading off of a script someone else wrote for them, but hey, it got the message across. Celebrity endorsements are such an effective marketing tool because they've got multi-directional appeal. Wow, this teen favorite famous person says that they use this product made for one of the most common teen skin conditions. They're so relatable for having an acne problem, so down to earth for admitting it, and so humble for seeking treatment. Through a paid promotion. They're just like me! For real, for real. And this thing that they're promoting, it's not some expensive luxury only available to the 1%. It's in an affordable price range on my TV between episodes of Glee. Yet, they are still famous people, probably with a lot of money to afford some other luxury skincare option, but here they are, telling me that they use this stuff that you have to buy from an infomercial.
Embraced by the most famous faces in the world, stars who can afford anything but depend on Proactiv to help keep their skin clear.
It must all be real and true. This must be their secret. I must have it for myself. It's layers upon layers of strategic campaigning, while on the surface it's just a teen heartthrob with a swoopy bowl cut saying, "Hey, one less lonely girl, I use Proactiv. Never say never to clear skin." While I'm sure that... so stupid. While I'm sure that the star-studded ads definitely helped boost sales, said commercials were still just so everywhere that they got the job done whether star-studded or not. If the Bieber fever didn't convince you, then the sheer persistence of the advertising probably would instead, lodging that trademarked turquoise right into your brain. There was a certain je ne sais teenageness to it all, with the testimonials and promises of clear skin, so that Proactiv came to be known as the cool and trendy skincare, which was quite a feat not just for a skincare product in the 2010s, but for an acne solution of all things. The number of Proactiv parodies that were posted on YouTube circa 2010 is one of the best indicators for how incessant this brand had become. Most of the parodies just make fun of the fact that the ads exist at all, but many also mock the format from the insert famous person here to the regular people testimonials, especially poking fun at the before and after photos. The comparisons tend to vary wildly from person to person, with any combo of bad lighting, weird angles, and frowning faces on the before pictures, and highlight the importance of having a control group or any other method of consistency. Not to mention the large number of comparisons that seem to have no visible acne-related difference between them, but the person is still smiling in better lighting in the after picture, so in the 1-second glimpse they give you, it seems convincing at a glance. It makes you wonder, why would this clearly very successful and lucrative brand choose these particular pictures to represent their product's credibility? Why not use more distinct, self-evident pictures? I have a theory. You know how obnoxious mobile games will show gameplay in their ads, but then intentionally have the player fail very simple tasks to try and bait you into downloading out of pure spite and frustration? I think it's kind of like that. These pictures don't even obviously prove anything, but it still insists upon itself, so it sparks enough frustration or curiosity that you take matters into your own hands, reluctantly place an order, and see what results you'll get for yourself, just to see what all the fuss is about. And while we're on the topic of results, I'm sure by now we're all wondering, did Proactiv even really work? As a 3-step system, it's designed to be not just an acne solution, but acne prevention. It's not a spot treatment, but routine skincare that has the added benefit of fighting breakouts. The main active ingredient, benzoyl peroxide, is effective but gentle enough to use all over your face every day. though benzoyl peroxide is not a Proactiv exclusive ingredient. It's actually been used since 1934 as one of the most popular acne-fighting ingredients, used in various treatments which range in both percentage used per formula and price per product. One study that ran in 2011 compared Proactiv with 2 other over-the-counter treatments that also used benzoyl peroxide, and were less expensive than Proactiv. And the results? As far as acne reduction, there was no statistical difference between any of the products. None of the volunteers saw their acne wiped out completely, no matter which product they used. Okay, so I guess that didn't really answer the question. Does it work? Maybe. In the specific case that your skin responds well to its specific ingredients and routine daily treatment, yes, but something similar may be just as effective. In the many other varying cases that your skin is too sensitive, or your acne is too stubborn, or any other combination of factors that make Proactiv a personally ineffective treatment, no, it probably wasn't the miracle cure you were looking for. Some people using Proactiv reported having harsh reactions to the benzoyl peroxide, especially with repeated everyday use, finding it excessively drying or inflammatory. Some people didn't see any negative side effects, but just noted that it didn't work to clear their skin. And especially when looking back at those before and after pictures again, you start to notice a trend not just in their inconsistency, but also in how light the before acne was to begin with. You kind of have to squint to see it sometimes. Not to say that any amount of acne, even just one pimple, can't be distressing or stubborn. There's no gatekeeping insecurity. And I bet that there's a lot of details in the fine print about how Proactiv isn't 100% guaranteed to help, with its success being subjective dependent on many factors. But they don't mention any of this while they're flashing Katy Perry on screen, or especially in the many testimonials that claim nothing else worked until I tried Proactiv. And maybe you already knew that it was a gamble, but thought it was worth a try anyway. Such is the reality of buying pretty much any product. But dang, its popularity and celebrities and all that scientific info from the ladies in lab coats sure made it seem convincing, huh? But even that coveted acne knowledge they offer you is just another part of the marketing. Even if it is true, a diagram showing the layers of the skin may not imply Proactiv is a cure-all, but it is intended to make you feel like you have more control over your acne than you really do. But it doesn't really matter if you know how acne forms dermatologically. Everyone's skin and biology and conditions and genetics will react differently to different treatments. Some of this might seem obvious, but especially for hopeful teens, this might not sink in, or they are skeptical but still desperate for something to work. And pretty much every brand ever has used some form of similar marketing tactics to stretch the truth, make more implications than direct statements, or include the less glorifying details in the fine print on screen that no one will ever read. I'm not demonizing Proactiv or saying it's an isolated incident of sugar-coated advertising, but for being a product made for a widespread condition that affects a particularly self-conscious and naive demographic, it just makes it seem that little bit more predatory. Though that isn't to say that Proactiv had a 0% success rate. I make no claims that Proactiv was producing false or misleading advertisements. I just think it got hyped up so much and intentionally ran with that exposure for as long as it lasted that its infamy preceded its actual effectiveness. But alas, even as it continued with the tried and true celebrity method into the 2010s, the hype eventually did die down and Proactiv fell out of popularity. It didn't go out of business or anything. It's still around, though it's mostly ditched the infomercials and sold online and in physical stores instead. But without those infomercials, it's no longer everywhere you look, no longer Justin Bieber's favorite acne treatment, no longer trendy, which might just have been the real reason it was so well known to begin with. Amidst the competition of the now massive skincare industry of 2025, Proactiv isn't a piece of pop culture anymore, worthy of popularity and parodies, but is just like any other skincare brand out there. And I guess in post-Bieber Fever clarity, I can recognize that that's all it actually was the whole time. Hi, welcome to Jelly TV, where I shout out a video that I think deserves some love. I recommend watching My Beef with Cozy Games by Aishio. I love a good cozy game as much as the next gamer girl, but sometimes spectating the race to make the next most wholesome and relaxing title gets a little exhausting. Aishio does such a great job at explaining the nuance behind the cozy game genre, the oversaturation of the market, the rise of shovelware, and every other detail in between with a really well-rounded viewpoint, all coming from another fellow girly pop gamer that's tired of being treated like a commodity. If you also have a stake in the cozy games genre, or just like well-scripted and articulated video essays, I recommend checking out this video and the rest of Aishio's channel. Bye now! A huge thank you to Daniel E. from ABQ, Kevin Evans, Bunzo, Karis Desarun, Chumby, Knuckleoso, Loj My Animal, Blue, Mark Kent, Nighttime Coral, Ollie E, Online Grandpa 1, Paper Sam, Pharmamags, Pixel Puppy, Shaples, Theodore Nicolawilius, Usagi, and the rest of my patrons for supporting me.